In the last tech assignment, you took your equations that you found in tech assignment 1 and you put those equations into an augmented matrix and then put that matrix into reduced row echelon form. Now, when we did these row operations, we probably did them in our head or maybe in a calculator and might have made a mistake. So I want to verify those things by working out the row operations in Google Sheets. So let me switch over to the shared spreadsheet. And this is probably the way yours looks, maybe with some different names and things. And what we'll do first is you will go ahead and add a sheet to this. So this is a blank sheet, and now we need to make sure we customize it so that we know it's yours. So I double-clicked on that tab, and I'm going to rename it T3 for Tech 3, and then maybe my last name. So you'd have T3, whatever your last name here is. That way each person on your team can tell which one's yours and which one's theirs. Remember, each one of you have a different set of equations that you're solving. All right, so we're going to go up here to A1, and I'm going to use column A to tell me what the row operations are. So the first thing I'm going to tell it is put into augmented matrix, just like we had before. Now, when I did that, it went a little bit out of the cell. So after I hit enter, I'm going to come up to the top here. I'm going to hold down my mouse button and drag that border over a little bit. That gives me a little bit more room to work. Over here in B, C, and D in row 1 and row 2, I'm actually going to put the augmented matrix. So I'm using the one for medication that I've been using in each one of these assignments. You'll want to use your system of equations for the problem you're working on. So 1, 1, 20, and then 0.12, 0.08, and 1.8. Great, so there is my augmented matrix. So now I have to do the first row operation, and remember the first row operation was negative 0.12 times row 1 added to row 2 and put the result in row 2. So the only thing that's going to change here is row 2. So I'm going to go up to my previous matrix. I clicked on B1 and I'm dragging across to get the entire row. And I'll say copy. Now I'm going to go down to the new row 1. I'm going to say where I'm going to place those. So I'm dragging across while holding down the mouse button. And I'll do edit, and this is important, paste special, paste values only. All right, so the only thing that's going to change here in row 2, so let me put in the formula that allows me to do that. Because I want it to calculate something, I'm going to start by typing equals negative 0.12 star is the times, and remember we're going to take row 1, so I'm going to go to B1 and I'm going to add that to B2. Hit enter and it does the calculation for me. Now the nice thing about a spreadsheet is once you've done a calculation here, if you want to repeat that calculation in other columns, I can go to this little box right here. That's called the fill box, and I can drag it over. And what that does is it does that same calculation but in a different column. So if I were to look right here, it says negative 0.12 times C1 added to C2. That's exactly what I wanted to do in that column. And then over here, it says negative 0.12 times D1 plus D2. That allows me to quickly calculate that entire row, and that matched with what we did in the previous technology assignment. All right, so now let's go down to A7 and let's type in the row operations for that. Remember that was dividing each one of the entries by negative 0.04. So I'm going to type 1 divided by negative 0.04. times row 2, put the result in row 2. Now, in doing this, the only thing that's going to change is row 2. So I'll go up to the previous row 1. I'm going to drag and select, and then say copy. And then that row is going to become the new row 1. So I drag and select, and then said edit, paste special, paste values only. So the only thing I've been changing is the row 2s. All right, so I'm going to go down to B8, and now I need to divide the entry above by negative 0.04. So I'll start with an equals to say that I'm doing a calculation. 1 / negative 0.04 times, so in the previous matrix that would have been that entry, so B5. And now hit enter, and it does the work for me. Now I'm going to fill the rest of that row with that operation. So click on it. While holding the mouse button down on that box, I'm going to drag across. And I see that it divided the entry here by negative 0.04 and the entry here by negative 0.04. And it matches the work that I did previously. All right, the very last thing I need to do is to put a 0 in the first row, second column. So what's not going to change this time is going to be row 2. But the row operation I want to do is negative 1 times row 2 added to row 1, and I'm going to put the result in row 1. All right, so we're not going to change row 2. So let me go up here to row 2. So I clicked on the cell while holding the mouse. I'm dragging and selecting. I'm going to say copy. Now I'll go to the second row in my new matrix, and I'm going to paste the values again. Paste special, paste values. If you do just a plain old paste here, it's going to mess up the formulas we've done before, and it'll give you completely ridiculous answers here. All right, so now let's go to that cell B10 and do the row operation. So I'm in cell B10, so I'm going to type equals, because I need to do a calculation, negative 1 star for times, and so I'm taking negative 1 times this entry, and I'm adding it to the entry above. Now enter. Now, didn't change it just as I expected, but now I can click on that, go to that fill handle, and drag it across. And if I've done everything correctly, I should get the 1s and the 0s exactly where I expect it. And when you look at that, that matches what we did on our previous assignment back here. And it gives me the exact same solution. So this one I kind of did in my head and using the calculator. This one I used the power of the spreadsheet to actually do the calculations for me. This will be really handy when we start working with much bigger matrices. And so you want to try and master this. Just don't simply type in the numbers, because I'm going to check to make sure you don't do that. You want to make sure that you're doing the calculations to figure out what the new rows are going to be.